Hello, this is Nick from That Sports Science blog. This is the third video in building a monitoring system for your sports team. The first video we looked at moving data with a macro within Excel, and the second video we looked at building a Excel table and the strengths of building that table and reasons why you might want to do that. So this video is going to look at building a session loading graph, and this will be part of your dashboard and a very important part of your player monitoring system. So now we've got from inputting the data, assigning labels to the player database to actually producing the report or the dashboard system. So we would like our graph to first display the individual session loading for a period of 4 weeks, and we'd like that graph to also be able to change through players quite quickly, and we'd also like it to be able to sift through the key metrics, and we'd also like to be able to change the date on that and it to be automatically updatable. So I'm going to take you through the process of how I would go about building that. So first of all, we come to our database and we click on the table, and then we click insert, and we need a pivot table. So we're going to click on the pivot table up there, and all this is okay. We're going to click OK. So now we have our pivot table. Pivot tables are fantastic tools in Excel, and you can use them to do a number of really good stuff, but we're going to use it in a very simple way today. So what I want you to do is take your date and drop it in your rows, then take your player, drop it in your filters, and then come down to duration and drop that in your values. So now you're going to drop all your metrics in your values down there. Okay, and then we're going to make sure we keep them in the order of the database. Cells, D cells, red zone, and fatigue score. Okay, brilliant. Now what you'll notice is if you click up here, click this little box here, you can deselect and only have one player shown at any one time. So our pivot table, the way we are going to use it is we're only ever going to have one player as one player's data in here at one time. So we are using the pivot table just to sift through our database and return all of one player's data. Okay, so I'm just going to rename this sheet pivot table so it's easy to recognize in the future. So what we want to do is we want to use a slicer. We're just going to use it for a player first of all. We're going to click OK. Now what you'll notice is this fantastic tool here allows me to click and select any player's data, and that pivot table automatically sorts that data for me from the database and just returns that data very efficiently and very quickly without the need for any complicated formulas. So what you can actually do is you can cut that slicer, insert a new sheet, call that sheet the dashboard, and then paste that slicer in there. So the slicer is still doing the exact same thing, so it's still changing the data in here, but now we have it on its own sheet. So now what we need to do is we need to build a graph from that pivot table for the last 4 weeks worth of data. So we're just going to come up into here and we're going to put a date in there. So say for example the 1st of the 10th of 2015. And now we're going to create another sheet, and we're going to name this sheet player ordered. You can name it anything you like, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to come back to dashboard. Oh, sorry, no, we're going to stay on this sheet here. We're going to link this cell up to the dashboard up here. Hit enter. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one day away from that by minusing that there, and then I'm just going to drag that down. So what we actually want is the last 4 weeks. So I'm going to insert another row there. Okay, and drag that down to 28 days. There we go. Okay, just going to insert so I can get the title rows in there. So I'm going to come back to my database, take my metrics there, my field headings. Come back to my player order. I'm actually going to leave this column empty for the time being. Hit paste in there. Double click that there to get it all fitting nicely. And then all I'm going to do is use a VLOOKUP. So I'm going to VLOOKUP. Oh, sorry. Equals VLOOKUP. Don't forget hit tab. Come over to here. Lock that by column. Hit comma. Okay. I'm going to come over to my pivot table. Actually going to take this slightly larger than the pivot table. Okay. Just in case the pivot table changes because they are dynamic, so it could get more data in it. And hit F4 to lock that, comma. Just going to come back into my player order so you can see what's going on. So my column reference number will be, I'm going to come back into my pivot table so we can do a count here. So my column reference number will be 1, 2. I want the 2 in there, and then I want it exact, and then I'm going to hit OK, and there you go, it's returned the duration. Now if I drag that across, you'll see it returns 45 for all of them because we haven't changed the column reference. But also if I double click that down, oh, not yet, bring that down, we'll have a whole load of errors for when there isn't any data, it has no data return. So we don't want those errors in there, so we're just going to click if error, comma, double quotation mark that. So if I was now to double click that down, we'll just get blank in there. Okay, and again I'm just going to drag that across, and now I'm going to put column 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then double click those down, and it's populated that for me. So if we come to our dashboard, we change player there, you'll notice that this data here changes. So what you could actually do is if I highlight this data and then highlight this data and insert a graph here, okay, you actually see you already have the beginnings of a player loading graph, but that will change by player. So if I come here and click a different player, it changes, but it won't change by metric. So what we need to do is we need to come back into our dashboard, and we already know we have a set metric list over here. So we're going to come to our dashboard, we're going to data validation, and we're going to use a list, and we're going to get a cell reference there, and we're going to take from duration down to all our other metrics, hit enter, enter again. Now we have a drop down where we can select the metric that we choose. So we're going to link this cell up here where we left that column empty with this cell here. Not letting me do that at the moment. There you go. So now if we change that on the dashboard, it changes that heading here. So we're just going to use a HLOOKUP, and this is going to be the top row, so it's going to look across here, and then it's going to return a row from here. Oops, sorry. The HLOOKUP, first we need to look up the value, which is the top cell. We're going to lock that, and then we're going to do the table reference, and we're going to hit F4, comma, and our row index number, we're going to use a rows incrementer. We're going to press down and back up again to bring it onto that cell, and then just +1 there, and we're going to use the exact match, close brackets, put a $sign in there to lock, so it always counts off the first row. Don't need any decimal places. Double click that down there. So now it's returning total distance, and if I come to this dashboard, change that to sprint distance, it's now returning sprint distance. So I'm now going to click on this graph, okay, and just move that reference over there. So now it's taking it off that column. I'm going to cut that graph out of there, come to my dashboard, insert it in here, just stretch it out a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. Call it my daily loading graph. Okay, whack some labels on it, and now I can jump through any player. Of course, you can make it look as nice and as fancy as you like. I'm just showing you the functionality behind building it. You can pick any metric there. Okay, and we can change that date there. Maybe we want the 2nd of. Okay, and it will return those last 4 weeks, right, for any one of those dates or metric or players that we decide to click on. So I hope you find that useful and you can see the benefit in producing something like this. Please log in for future videos. Thank you, goodbye.